This is Aaron Levine, LG Insurance Agency, hanging out on another episode of the Who You Work With Matters podcast with my friend Mike Bruno from Stone Creek Construction. Mike, thanks for getting off the job site, although you walked into the studio not sweaty. Leads me to believe you were not on the job site today or in a well air-conditioned job site today.
That's correct. Yeah, I was actually in the office all day. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you coming in. So you and I met, in the last year and a half or so through one of our mutual associates through a networking group that we both belong to called the Blue Water Wave. And I think we first maybe met either on a Zoom that Bridget set up for us, or we met at a project that you had recently finished, which Bridget and the Blue Water Wave loves to attend for events in Bellworks, a restaurant called Mabel.
Correct.
That was a fun one for you.
Yeah. No, it was a very interesting project. I mean, it was in a very historic building. A lot of complexity, so it was fun to build. It's a good spot. It's definitely interesting. Having a restaurant inside a building that has its own kind of ecosystem. But yeah, very fun project.
I love that. What kind of construction projects do you focus on today? Mostly commercial? Do you do any residential? Talk to me a little bit about your business.
Sure. So predominantly now, I would say we do about 90% commercial, and it's in a variety of different verticals. So restaurant, hospitality space, multifamily, ground up industrial, office space. We do a lot of pharmaceutical, R&D facilities, manufacturing facilities. So interestingly enough, we kind of lean towards the more complex projects.
Okay.
I think we're pretty suited for it. We are a boutique firm, just around 25 employees in total, but we have a very good subcontractor base, and it allows us to react and be nimble and kind of go after some of those projects that are not commodity based, that I like to call it.
So it sounds like you've got projects, right, from all aspects of commercial construction, multifamily, hospitality, restaurants, large industrial sites, pharmaceutical. Are you all over the state with respect to a lot of this work?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I would say, we definitely have projects on the New Jersey-New York border, and then we've done a couple things in Philly and right outside of Philly, but predominantly, a New Jersey-based company. We haven't done much, further south than I would say, like, Tom's River area into New Jersey, but yeah, it's we're bouncing and ricocheting all over the state every day.
I love that.
Pretty interesting.
So, how did you get into your niche of more complex commercial projects, right? Those are, I'm going to be cliche and I'm going to say those are more complex, a little bit harder, similar to how I like a nice complex insurance program setup that's
Sure.
going to, where we can add a little bit more value to the consumer, to the end user with respect to what we do. How did you get yourself into these larger commercial projects?
So I think, it started, the basis of it is my experience in the industry. So I've been in the industry now for 35 years. Started the business when I was young, right out of high school in 1990. So, the diversity of the experience, both residential, commercial, government work, that lays a pretty good foundation. Then fortunately, about 6, 7 years ago now, I brought in a partner who's a architect, engineer mindset. Came from a background of pharmaceutical and a lot of manufacturing. So that skill set kind of formed the foundation for the projects that we go after today. And I think, in the marketplace, we're obviously not competing with the big boys, right? They're going after the $100 million projects and the big ones. But in our marketplace and the size of company that we have allows us to, really cherry pick and go after those little bit more difficult projects, which also lend themselves to be a little bit more profitable.
So it seems like you're in that, that middle market space, right? The small contractor dreams of, right, but has no idea how to get into or manage, projects of scale. But then you're also not competing with those larger companies doing mega projects,
Correct.
so to speak.
Right. So yeah, it's kind of the under the radar approach.
It's funny. There's that set, and we like that on the insurance side also, right? There's, larger contractors that we have no business insuring because they need to be with a Marsh or an Aon, unfortunately. And then there's that middle market that's still paying significant premium
Yep.
and, is a good customer and still wants to be protected appropriately because they understand insurance. But then we get a lot of the small guys when they bid on bigger projects, we're like, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
your insurance is set for you as a handyman. You're not set up to go do anything of significant value, and there's no way you're going to win the project, or you're going to underbid, win, and then you're going to wind up fucking yourself
Yeah.
because you don't know what to do after you've won the bid. We see that all the time, unfortunately, because we cross the border into New York for insurance purposes, and we get New Jersey contractors that try to cross the border to do work in New York City.
Yeah.
They have
it's
no
dangerous.
business
No.
being there. I'm working on a project right now, and the GC, who's my client, I'm like, all right, I need your subcontractor certificates. They sent me some sub out of Lakewood with low limits, bad carriers, and I'm like, our underwriters are like, what's he doing? This is red flags all over the place. It's like, well, they were the low bid. I'm like, yeah, they were the low bid for a reason.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
your insurance is going to go up by 100,000 because you have to then cover what their shortfalls are. So there's that whole piece of filling in the gaps. So, was it strategic to bring in a partner that had the engineering and architect background, or was it kind of lucky and
Yeah, it was
fell into
definitely lucky. We fell into it. We were on. We had an opportunity to take a project, and it just meshed well. We grabbed it, ran with it. It was a little bit before. I guess a couple years before COVID. Then we landed another big project right during COVID, which was a manufacturer of heart pumps. So that project was full bore right through COVID because there was a need for medical equipment.
Right.
We just mesh well and feel very fortunate. I've had partnerships in the past over the past couple decades that didn't work out so well.
Sure.
But this one I'm very fortunate. He's a little bit younger than me, like a little bit, a lot of it, like 17 years, which is also interesting. But I think we mesh well. I mean, we both have a lot of experience, and we're driven the same way.
Right.
And it's.
I mean, you were talking
working
about
out really well.
when you started the business, when you started getting into this field in 1990. When I was 10 years old. You've come a long way, and you've seen your industry change significantly, and now you've also brought your next generation into the business as well, right? So the podcast is the Who You Work With Matters podcast,
Right.
and you're dealing with so many who's with respect to partners, children as team members. We'll be polite and not call them straight employees.
Right.
Although they think they're your equal, they look and feel that they're your partner and they're your equal, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes because it's like I can yell at my dad. I was in we had a family business too. I spent my time working with my father, and I look back and reflect on it, and it was great, and I learned a lot, and I still learn a lot from my dad, and we have great conversations. But there was no way that I could continue doing what I was doing because I knew it wasn't going to get me to where I needed to be and wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because we had conflicting ideas, and it worked out better for me to spin off with his support and get into the insurance industry that I did 15, 16 years ago now. Without his support, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Without his network early on, he's going to probably ask me for a commission for all the policies he helped sell early on. Was super important and super influential in my decisions and how I've been able to operate and grow my business. So what's it like working with the next generation in your business?
So it is interesting because both of them, I always, told them stay out of the construction industry, right? And I think, a lot of that was because of my entrance into construction was with very limited experience.
Okay.
Right? My father didn't work in construction. He was a systems engineer for, AT&T.
So how did you get in? How did you choose to one day start swinging a hammer?
So it was, I went to school, when I was in high school, I took a lot of architectural drawing classes, had an interest in architecture, graduated school, was supposed to go away to college for architecture, decided to stay local and start community school. While I was at community school, I just delivered flyers in the neighborhood, and before you know it, had all my friends working for me, and we were doing small little home improvement projects.
Nice.
And then that kind of, weaved itself into all these different things. But, it was a long, lonely road, if I put it that way. And for decades, just kind of running into a wall and beating my head into, doing the same things and, expecting different results, but not getting it. And then I really started, working on myself and working with business psychologists and all these different people to, just kind of rise and look at things differently. But I always had that kind of bad taste in my mouth for construction in general, right? I mean, it's a, great profession, but still dirty profession, and there's all those ins and outs and fluctuation with economy and whatnot. So I never said to them, when you grow up, please join the company. And my older one actually went to school for finance, graduated, and he's like, I don't want to work in a desk job. So could I come to work? So we have him, working as a superintendent on projects.
Okay.
And then my younger one went to school, graduated. Now we have him in the office working with estimating and construction administration, insurance, tracking down insurance certificates and that kind of stuff. And in the beginning, I was, I think, still a little bit negative about it. And I was kind of like, you don't want to be in construction, do something different. And then I just told myself, look, it is, very rewarding to be able to work with them, right? And develop a relationship and mesh and, help teach them and, all those different things. So, it feels good. There's not a day that I, when I say, my son, or I have my son on an email or these different things where I don't feel a huge connection, right? So, I mean, I think there's some value there. And we'll see how it plays out. Still, if one of them comes to me tomorrow and says, look, I've tried this out for several years and I want to bounce and do something else, I fully support it. If they're going to continue to roll up their sleeves and grind it out, then I'm fine with that too.
They can continue to learn and grow and add value.
Yep.
Is going to be the most important thing, and that's going to make you feel the best as a parent, but it's also going to make you feel the best as an employer that they've been able to contribute and add value and help the business ultimately continue to thrive.
Yep. Very true.
And grow, because you've obviously, like you said, a long, lonely road previously, right? And that's often what it can be. And you're providing a different experience for them, but hopefully you're putting a little hard knocks into them at the same time. And I always think about my children, right? So my girls are currently 10 and 7. I'm like, do I want my agency to be around for them so that they can have jobs? I'm like, hell no, they need to go figure it out for themselves. I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do, but I know a lot of sons of the boss, and so do you, in different aspects of what we do. And it's like, or, sons and daughters of the owner. And it's like, there's a lot of value in that when they can add value. Even when my dad gave me the opportunity to come to work for the family business, for the windmill, the rule was, go get a job for 2 years. Go experience something for 2 years. And I worked in corporate America for 2 years, and I hated it because I always grew up watching an entrepreneur, watching a business owner in different businesses growing up. And then, when Big Brother was watching me the whole time, I couldn't stand it. If I look back today, if I kept that same job and worked through the ranks in that corporate job with my stock options and everything, I'd be retired right now. But that's a whole other story. Would I be as happy? Probably not, because I live a pretty good life and I've built a very successful business. And I want to talk about insurance on the construction side of things too. But it's, figuring out what to do next is important, and having your kids have that energy to bring something else and new tools into the business, right? How can you leverage technology? How can you leverage all this AI that we're into in your space, right? People are swinging hammers, but when it comes to reviewing drawings and getting things built and, scheduling and projects and insurance reviews and the administrative stuff, there's a lot of technology that can help you expedite and be a little bit faster, right? If you have a 16-month project, how can you get it done in 14 months? Maybe there's a bonus for you for being done with the project 2 months or 3 months early on some of these things. And so leveraging tools and letting, the next generation research and figure out how to expedite that could be really cool for you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And when we talk about like the lonely road, right, you have to think when I started, there was public internet was limited, right? It was like dial-up service.
We were going to
right?
a payphone.
Yeah, I had a
You had a
pager.
beeper.
I had a beeper. So that was different, right? And even as I took on projects that I didn't have the experience in, I would drive to the bookstore at Quaker Bridge Mall, right out in Princeton, and see if they had a book. Oh, they have a book on tile. Great. So now I'm going to be able to do tile. Right. So I mean it is lonely in that aspect, but
Now you're
yeah,
watching
I mean,
a YouTube video on how
yeah,
to do
I mean,
herringbone.
now it's totally different. And yeah, the use of technology, even over the last 2, 3 years, 10 years. I mean, all of our construction management is all cloud based. I mean, everything from even tracking insurance certificates and contracts and commitments and all those things is fully automated. And then the other interesting thing, obviously, is just how AI is going to impact everything.
Sure.
Right. I mean, it would be. I mean, it's going to happen, right, to a point where you're just going to push a button and everything's going to spit itself out.
Right.
Right. Schedules will be built, commitments will be built, subcontractor contracts will be analyzed. All these things will be much easier to use. But yeah, I mean, it's that aspect of it is very interesting, and the younger generation obviously jumps on it quicker, and they're used to it and they get it.
But there's a lot of conversation about the next generation, the younger generation, and the trades.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of professional tradesmen
hmm
in what you do, right, in your subcontractor class, and even on the general contractors. There's a shortage
Yeah.
in that for people able to work with their hands. I always
hmm
said if I had sons, I'd be like, we're going to trade school. You're both going to be, you have an electrician and a plumber, and we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna build a big ass business that way, because there's such a shortage, and the expense, the cost to hire a good plumber and electrician
hmm
has gone significantly through the roof. Just as any of the good qualified trades, insurance requirements have gone up,
hmm
vehicle costs, wages, everything has gone through the roof, over the past couple of decades, and significantly over the past couple of years.
hmm
You've seen your insurance costs rise a lot. Unfortunately, on some lines, workers' comp has gone down. In most cases, commercial auto, right? But
Yep.
we're in such a litigious society that it should
Yeah.
be scary for somebody like you to hire a subcontractor who doesn't have good insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and that's the I guess it's a risk mitigation plan that we have to have in place. So we tend to lean towards larger subcontractors that have, many employees, sometimes hundreds.
hmm
So obviously they have the proper insurances and they have their own risk mitigation plans in place. But we do run across the smaller guys that are mom and pop shops that still have very good technical skill, right? And that
hmm
goes back to, there's a lot of knowledge that's out there that's being lost,
Right.
right? And hopefully somehow it gets captured, right? But it's that's a struggle. And then I was just telling you a little quick story before we walked in here. Years ago, this is going back like maybe 15 years ago, we hired a subcontractor, gave me an insurance certificate. There was a little bit of damage. We tried to reach out to the broker to do this $10,000 repair or whatever it was,
Right.
and it turns out the insurance was fake, right?
Yeah.
And these are coming from brokerage, supposed brokerage companies. They're faxing us from something that
Right.
says blah 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 insurance, right? But it's a lot of fake stuff going on out there. So, it is scary, right? For a contractor to hire all these individual people. Because we're hiring the company, we're hiring their employee, we're hiring their employee's problems, we're hiring all the subcontractors of subcontractors, and as there's many layers that, are involved.
It's the subcontractor of the subcontractor, that third sub
Yep.
that you don't even know about, by the way,
Yep.
because you're hiring a sub that you have a subcontractor agreement with. You don't know what they're doing and who's showing up
Yep.
to the job site. We had a claim recently where there was a subcontractor and there was other people in the work van with him that were the laborers, so a subcontractor of a subcontractor. There was a poorly executed subcontractor agreement, no review of insurance, and unfortunately there's 3 fatalities in an automobile accident.
Oh wow.
Who's on the hook?
Yeah.
That number one guy is responsible for every single person,
Mm-hmm.
every life lost. Even though he wasn't driving, he subcontracted somebody else, but they were using his van.
Mm-hmm.
There's a major issue
Yep.
there,
Yeah.
right? And people don't realize how much trouble they can get into until it's too late.
Yeah.
And we try to instill that in, especially smaller contractors that say, I don't need that, I don't need that, I don't need that. Yes, you do. And you just need to learn how to bill appropriately,
Yeah.
because insurance could be a true pass-through expense.
Yep.
And the right GC, the right property owner is going to pay that because they want to make sure that everybody down the line has it. In New York City, we don't have as many issues because the requirements are really strict, from the top down, especially on larger
Mm-hmm.
projects and even mid-sized projects. But in New Jersey, we have so many fly-by-nights and so many issues with who owns what and who's doing what. It gets scary. And then they're like, Aaron, you didn't tell me, and I can only tell people so much till I'm blue in the face. And I'm like, you wouldn't have bought it anyway if I did
Right.
tell you.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Yep.
So being able to check and verify what people are giving you is a whole nother nightmare of a problem. And we deal with that in the insurance industry all day long, because in construction, let's be honest, is a huge line item for insurance policies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Insurance
Yep.
policy, consumers of insurance, contractors pay a lot of money
Yeah.
throughout the nation in that. Forget about the property stuff and everything else, but contractors make up a huge piece of that puzzle. So finding a way to solve that for you would be tremendous. And I'm going to call your agent and have a conversation with him and see if we can figure that out. But that's, we think about that, you're thinking about that, and it's good that you're thinking about that because it puts you above everybody else that's trying to compete on these jobs. Your level of confidence, your level of ability to say, hey, I have the $10 million umbrella. We're already set up insurance-wise to do this work for you, which goes a long way. When you see people not properly insured, they're not ready, which also means they probably don't have the technical skill to do the job at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and the other, the interesting thing too in the insurance industry is that, like you said, right? People don't prepare the way that they should until something bad happens and it's too late.
Right.
And we actually, about a year and a half ago, were going through a transition to another carrier for one of our insurances. And, they sent two guys to our office and they did like a full day interview. I had to take them to job sites and it was this whole process, right? And, throughout the process, it was painful. Of course, I didn't want to fucking do it, right?
It's like an OSHA inspection.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's what it is. It's an OSHA inspection.
Yeah, I mean, it was, show me every contract, show me this, show me that, bring me to all these different job sites. But, going through it at the end, I actually thanked the guy.
Right.
And I said, even though we have, brokers and people looking at all these different things, I learned stuff today. Right. That we need to now put in our contracts to protect ourselves better. So, I mean, it's, I think it's like a twofold thing. You have a lot of contractors out there that are underinsured and they're trying to get away with it, which kind of fucks over the whole entire process and the system. But at the same time, it'd be nice if insurance companies offered education that was non-abrasive, that was preemptive instead of reactive to a fucking problem at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to have the right business operator and owner that's willing to hear that. And, and I love when people like yourself, hesitantly say yes to a workplace safety inspection, right? But then you get to realize that the safety and health and wellness of your employees and the people on the job site has to be a priority.
It's number one. Yeah.
Right? And so having a third party come in and do a pre-OSHA inspection is what they all wind up looking like is actually pretty cool when you get to see that without being in trouble.
Yeah.
And then hiding and trying to just defend and deflect and not worry about it, because then you're in a different mindset.
Yeah, that's
true. Workplace safety being number one, every guy hates a fucking toolbox talk. But you have to do it because you know what? There's a little bit of the information in that toolbox talk every week that could save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And save your company if you did have an unfortunate accident that did cause a death.
Yeah.
Right. And if you get brought into a lawsuit where there is a significant injury, having all the documentation is what's going to save your ass at the end of the day, right? There's so many pieces of it. But anyway, enough insurance talk and workplace safety talk. Let's talk more about, the environment of construction right now besides the insurance piece. how is it getting jobs done? Are municipalities getting harder? Where are you seeing the whole marketplace for construction going?
Interestingly enough, I mean, we've been fortunate that we're diverse enough where we haven't really felt anything from an economic perspective.
Hmm.
We definitely did, hear about and talk to other people where, there would be a little bit of a dip in, new designs and new engineering and architecture contracts and things like that. But overall, I think, right now the rates are going to come down a little bit more. There's still a lot of entrepreneurs, getting access to money
Hmm.
and getting into the marketplace with opening up new restaurants and new facilities. There's a lot of money still being put into industrial space and multifamily. And then, of course, you have, the historic winners of, the small pharma and the
Hmm.
research development that never really goes away. So I think from our perspective, it's been really really good and kind of fun. I mean, we're not really in pain at the moment,
That's
which
good.
is a good thing. And then interestingly enough, we ramped up this residential business again, and started gaining a lot of traction very fast. And I think the professionalism from the construction side trumps the professionalism you have on the residential side.
Right.
So it's allowed us to pick up some projects pretty quickly, which is also fun. Um, and
But residential construction is emotional.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So it's a whole different project feel,
yeah.
right? So, this takes me to a question that I had, like, how do you deliver to the best client experience possible on both sides of it?
So we have teammates that have spent a lot of time on the residential
Okay.
home building and remodeling side. So when we have those type of projects, we position them there,
Okay.
right? And I have a lot of experience in it, so the conversations and the ability to have the meetings and deliver through the emotions, is something that I've dealt with, and had a lot of bad experiences and a lot of good ones, but made it through. And then my partner is very in tune with residential
Hmm.
as well. So he's an architect by trade. Has a lot of the design aesthetic kind of balances things out. And I think again, it's really it's understanding, as homeowners and construction people and wanting to build great projects for people.
Right.
I think it's just a level of comfort and communication.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
So
it's
delivering
it's a
that
different
comfort
animal.
and communication, right? I'm just going to stick to on the residential side. Forget the larger commercial because that's a different set of expectations. How do you deliver the message that Stone Creek is the right contractor to hire and prove your professionalism, right? How do you get through that? And what are some of like really good questions for a homeowner to be asking a contractor when they're vetting them for a project or for a new build?
So, so what we did do is we have a separate brand. So we started a separate company, right, to keep
Hmm.
them separate, so that I really don't think somebody who wants to build a $2 million house or do a $300,000 renovation really cares about a car dealership, right? So we did ramp up another, a
Okay.
brand for that called Black River Builders, which is not a playoff of Stone Creek, other than Black River is, northern New Jersey, and my
Okay.
partner knew about it, and he's like, let's call it Black River Builder. So there we are. But I think in terms of, starting off the process right, it comes down to the communication.
Hmm.
So it's communicating to them that we have the experience and we have the resources, right? So we do have a lot of good residential resources, subcontractors, and I just wrote an email yesterday for a bid that we sent out for a new custom home, and I put our team in there. And one of the teammates that we use to build things and get it out of the ground is a gentleman who's been working for me since 1998,
Wow.
right? And the other one who does the finishes, so he's like a master cabinet maker, has been on and off with us since 95,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
So, I mean, you're talking about seasoned guys that know how to get through that process.
You've built a
Um,
huge trust bank, right? You've built such
yeah.
a network which allows you to then present that as saying, here's our longevity, here's my who's
Mhm.
around it. I love that. Like the trust and the longevity piece of it. That's the most important because you hear
Yeah.
all these stories of fly-by-nighters that stole so much money, especially after post-Sandy times,
Oh, yeah.
with
Yeah.
people coming in and being shysters and stealing money. still hear it today.
Yeah.
Contractors just stealing money when somebody trusted them with their life savings to remodel or build a home. It's
Yeah.
just sad. It's sad to hear, and that those things harm the entire industry, like you were saying
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, they do. And I think, a lot of them are undercapitalized, right? So, I mean, these guys are, carpenters or electricians or whatever they are by trade. They get into the business, the whole story about, working in the business, not on the business. They're, working for a paycheck. They're not charging the right amount for insurances and people and all these different things, and they just can't get out of that hamster wheel cycle.
Right.
So at the end of the day, they're chasing the next dollar, which I think, when you get a deposit from somebody for 50K, right, and they have a mortgage payment, they're going to make the mortgage payment, right? Whereas a well-capitalized company is not really taking a deposit. We're billing every 30 days. We're showing backup documentation and the insurance certificates and subcontractor contracts and lien waivers and all those different things. So, I think it's just a totally different business mindset, and how to, appropriately be transparent with clients too. I mean, I think the transparency is important, and just telling, laying it out on the table. These are the costs. This is where it is. This
Right.
is what it costs to manage it. Here's our insurance line item,
Right.
you know?
I think what you said was important, right? It's like the undercapitalization is huge because a guy that gets a deposit is in debt somewhere else and continues to run his Ponzi scheme until it blows up.
Correct.
And then he has to, then they wind up having to run away.
That's exactly
And that guy's also doing shoddy work. He's hiring the, third tier or fourth tier subcontractors without proper insurance. Somebody falls off a roof. We have a huge insurance nightmare. And I warn homeowners about this all the time. Like, please get those certificates. Don't just get them from the GC. We want the subs to name the homeowner as well. And you want to make sure everybody's got the workers' comp, because if somebody falls off that roof and then the homeowner becomes liable for it, like, that's the reality of how bad it could possibly be. It's wild. But that, that trust word and being well capitalized and having the experience, and like, we're not hungry to take a big deposit from you. We're hungry to win the job and do the right job, and obviously make sure that you can pay us accordingly as the project goes,
important.
and being open, honest, and truthful with it. I think is super great. What did I miss? What didn't we cover? You have a podcast that you've started rolling out, or not yet?
So we didn't. So we recorded 10 episodes.
Okay.
So we're almost ready to go.
What are you waiting for?
Just time. I don't know. Next week.
Time. Time is everything. Time is all we have. But if you want something, what they say, you want something done, ask a busy person. Right? Like, I love that, because if somebody asks me to do something, I'll figure out how to get it done, or figure out how to delegate it to get it done. And you're the same way. Is you're like, we're just going to make things happen, because we're plenty busy on the commercial construction side of it, but we might as well get back into the residential game, because that's fun. It's emotional. It's a little bit different. And you can bring additional value to a whole new set of people. So Mike Bruno, thanks so much for hanging out with me on the podcast today. It was great, and I hope someday I'll get to sit with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.